I was engaged to a dead guy for almost 2 years. Let's talk about it. So I met this guy on Tinder. I was living in Dominican Republic and he was living here in the United States, Texas, I believe. So I was like really into this guy. Like I would go to sleep every single night talking to him. Like we were on the phone 24/7. He was working, we were on the phone. I was taking a shower, we were on the phone. It was like around the time that I had moved out of my mom's house and I was living kind of like in these apartments that my grandmother owned. So I didn't live with my best friend, but we basically lived together. We both had different apartments. She lived in one of the apartments, I lived in another, but I was 100% of the time at her apartment. And when I tell you, I would literally drop everything to talk to this man that I've never met in person, just like over the phone FaceTime. I would literally drop everything, go to my apartment and talk to him for hours. I'm pretty sure my best friend was not jealous, but she was like very concerned. She's like, hey, like, don't get too caught up with this guy. Like, you don't know him in person. Like, this is just a FaceTime. This is just like a long distance kind of like flirting thing. So like 6 months into this like a long distance relationship, I tell him, I'm like, hey, like, I don't know what we're doing here. Like, I need to know, like, are we serious? Or, like, what's going on? I just want to say I was 18 and I was very deprived of affection. Like I've never had that kind of affection in my life. And after living hell at my mom's house, I was like in love with this guy. So I don't know what we were supposed to do this specific day, but I know I dropped everything because he said he was home and he really wanted to talk to me. So I dropped everything. I think I left. I stood up my best friend. We were going somewhere and she got like really mad. The day after all of that, she's like, I can't believe you left me for this guy, blah, blah, blah. You just met him. You've known me forever. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm engaged. No, I wasn't. And she was like, what? I'm like, yeah, I'm engaged. We were talking last night and he said he wanted to marry me. Bro, I was lying. So she was like, okay, so where's the ring? So I was like, oh, he's coming next month to see me and he's gonna bring the ring. There was no ring and there was no he was coming to see me. I think I just felt really pressured into needing to have a serious relationship with this guy so my best friend would take us seriously. But honestly, I didn't even know if he was taking us seriously. By the way, I forgot to say, I knew this guy's sister, his mom, his dad just got out of jail. Anyways, eventually I had to tell him, I'm like, hey, like, I told my best friend that we were engaged and that you were coming to see me. Like, is there any way that you think you can come so we can see each other and meet each other? So he was like, yeah, I'm gonna buy a plane ticket and I'm gonna go see you for Christmas. And he was like, can I stay with you? And I'm like, yeah, again, a guy that I've never met, but I'd rather him stay with me than me going to, like, stay with him. So 2 days before his flight, I'm like, hey, like, is everything good? Because I'm going to go with my uncle. He said he was going to take me to pick you up at the airport. Literally no response, like ghosted. I literally had to make up a lie how there was like a big snowstorm and all the flights were canceled and he couldn't take his flight. But I was ready to keep going with this lie and I decided I would go to the store and buy myself a $30 ring and put it on my little ring finger. And I told everyone like, oh, he couldn't come, but he decided he wanted to send me the ring, blah, blah, blah. And I was showing off this $30 ring. Fast forward, a tragedy happened in my family. I had to come here and visit my grandmother. And I was living this lie for almost 2 years. Until I decided to Google him because, again, he ghosted me. And found out he passed away in an accident. I was in shock, honey. I was in tears, almost. And I never told anyone this story. I never said I wasn't actually engaged to anyone and that this guy passed away, sadly, until now. And that's how I was engaged to a dead guy.
My friend hit his daughter and broke her rib. I'm absolutely furious right now. My friend has a daughter who is also in my 7th grade history class. She is the nicest kid in the world and one of the best students in any of my classes. However, this morning she came into my class late and was not herself. Normally, she's raising her hand and engaging with the class, but she had her hoodie up and her head down. She was holding her arm to the side and looked to be in pain. Halfway through class, I walked by her desk to check on her, and she looked up at me and had tears in her eyes. I brought her outside my classroom and asked her what was wrong, but she was not responding, but she started crying even more. After a couple of more minutes of reassurance, she finally opened up. She woke up late for school and accidentally dropped a glass of water when she was getting ready. My friend, who was her father, punched her twice in the ribs and yelled at her for being clumsy. I asked her if she was hurt, and she pulled her hoodie up and her ribs were beginning to bruise. My friend is 6'4" and over 200 pounds. My student is 12 years old and cannot be more than 85 pounds. I asked my colleague in the next class to watch over my class and I took her to the health office where her mother picked her up. When she saw her daughter sitting in pain, she nearly burned the office down. She started cursing my friend's name and said this was the last straw for her. She asked me not to file a report, but I told her I was required to as I was shown evidence of abuse and her daughter used the word abuse, which she begrudgingly understood. I am so mad right now. My friend has always had a short temper, but hitting your child because she dropped a glass is beyond disgusting. My student's mother texted me at noon and said her daughter broke a rib and is going to be out of class until Wednesday. I feel awful for my student. She is such a bright student and is well liked by her peers, and now she is having trouble breathing because her father cannot act like an adult. I'm ending my friendship with this man. He has been getting on my nerves for a while, but I will be damned if I'm friends with someone who hits their child.
It's Chisme time, and this is a long one, so make sure you sit back and relax. So I met this boy 4 years ago, and we'll call him D, and we instantly clicked. And I'm telling you, it was instantly. And it was really a love at first sight thing, or so I thought. And we were talking for a few months until this girl added me on Snapchat, who we'll call G. And when I added her back, she ended up texting me, and she was like, "Why are you talking to my man? Why are you texting him?" And obviously I was confused, so I was like, "Who are you talking about?" And of course she said D. So then this girl started going off in the chat, and she was calling me a hoe, and basically every word in the book. And keep in mind, I had no idea that they were together. I thought he was single, and he lied to me for so long, and that just goes to show how good of a liar he was. So after I found this out, obviously I blocked him and her. But after I blocked him, D constantly kept trying to get back together with me. And that went on for months. Like, he would always text me, he'd be like, "I'm gonna drop her, I promise, like, just get back together with me." And I trusted him, thinking that he was actually going to drop her. So then we started talking again, and ended up sending him pictures of me and wearing pictures of my face. You know what type of pictures I'm talking about. And it was the worst mistake ever. He ended up saving. So then after I sent him pictures, I realized that it was the worst mistake I ever made. He saved them to his camera roll, but I didn't think anything of it because I actually trusted him at the time. So then G ended up finding out that I was still talking to him. She tried to get me stabbed on 3 different occasions. 3 times. She was that mad. Thankfully, nothing ever did happen. Word did get around in my entire area though that I was a homewrecker, but I just ignored it. So I ended up blocking him, and I didn't speak to him for 2 years. I also ended up deleting all of my social media that I owned, and I never got back onto social media until last year. And when I got back on social media, guess what I seen? I seen that my personal pictures that I ended up sending D 2 years ago had been leaked. So of course, as any girl would, of course you would text the person you sent those pictures to and be like, "Why did you leak my pictures, this and that, blah blah blah." But in this situation, I completely forgot that I even sent them to D. So he didn't come to mind when I was thinking of who could leak my pictures. Fast forward a bit, and I'm finally back at school, and I was walking home with this guy friend that lives nearby. And as we're walking, guess who we see? Yes, D. D was pissing me walk with my guy friend, and I told my guy friend to just walk away, and I tried crossing the street, but it was too late. D had already crossed the street, and the next thing I knew, he was on the floor getting his whooped. Ended up breaking his jaw, his eye socket, and he just left him on the floor all hurt. When he was done, he just winked at me and walked away. In that afternoon, he ended up adding me on Snapchat, and he texted me saying, "You will never be able to get with another guy." That's exactly what happened. Up until Christmas, he stopped any relationships that I was trying to get into. I eventually had to give in and just get back with him. And he was no longer with G, so I would intentionally rub it in her face that we were back together. But then this one night we were together, and I was like, "Hey, do you know how my pictures got leaked?" He then said, "Oh, I sent it to my friend, and my friend sent it to G. She exposed them." I cried for days after I found out. My mom even knew about the pictures, and at that point it just ruined my entire life. He apologized and begged me to get back with him for months, and eventually I did. But he's a manipulator and a gaslighter. It feels wrong to leave, and we just broke up minutes ago because of an argument. And this is the 5th time this month. At this point, I truly can't escape, and I don't know what to do.